On Halloween of 1981, the infamous dark wizard Tom Riddle, known to the world as Lord Voldemort, arrived at Godric's Hollow in search of the Potters in order to kill their infant son Harry to prevent a prophecy that predicted his downfall. Harry's father James put up a fight but was quickly killed. Harry's mother Lily stood between the Dark Lord and her son. Voldemort ruthlessly murdered her with the most unforgivable of curses and turned his wand on the young Harry. But, miraculously, instead of killing him, the spell backfired, destroying Voldemort's body. This led to Voldemort's first downfall and the end of the First Wizarding War, sealing Harry's fate as the boy who lived. The Killing Curse is a tool of the dark arts and one of the 3 unforgivable curses. It's one of the most powerful and sinister spells. When cast successfully on a living person or creature, the curse causes instantaneous and painless death without causing any injury to the body and without any trace of violence. It was described by Barty Crouch Jr. when disguised as Mad-Eye Moody as not pleasant, there's no counter curse, and there's no blocking it. Then how did Harry survive? As a young baby with no magical training, how was he able to bypass death caused by the most unbeatable spell in the history of all magic? Dumbledore quite dramatically attributes Harry's mystical survival to the all-encompassing power of love, specifically his mother's love for her son. That is wonderful and poetic, but if the power of something as abstract and conceptual as love could save someone from a killing curse, there'd probably be a lot more people running around with jagged rebound scars on their bodies. Alas, there's only one. So how exactly did Harry survive the unsurvivable curse? Despite being touted throughout the books and movies as a curse with no counterspells, there are ways of subverting the effects of the curse. The Killing Curse can be dodged or physically blocked by an object, such as the statues Dumbledore animated to protect Harry Potter during his duel with Voldemort after the Battle of the Department of Mysteries. Another defense employed against the Killing Curse is the creation of at least one Horcrux. The creation of Horcruxes is a preventative measure, created by a wizard long before he faces an actual Killing Curse attack. If one has Horcruxes, they will not be dead, but they'll be barely alive and reduced, as Voldemort was when the Killing Curse backfired in 1981. Harry didn't really have access to either of these as a baby, as he had no Horcruxes on account of not being a murderer and was hit with the spell at point-blank range. There were no objects between him and Voldemort. How then did the Chosen One manage to thwart the Dark Lord's magic? The answer is not exactly love, but more than that. Lily Potter, in an attempt to save her son, used an ancient form of magic, the only known counterspell to the Green Bolt of Death, the Sacrificial Protection. Sacrificial Protection is an ancient, powerful, and long-lasting counter charm. This charm, unlike others, has no incantation and is endowed when one person ultimately sacrifices his or her own life willingly and out of deep and pure love to save the life of one or more people. When the person to make the sacrifice dies, the counter charm is so powerful that the murderer cannot physically touch the intended victim, as the protection lives in their veins. Also, any spells cast on the beneficiaries wear off quickly. For the spell to work, the victim must be given the option to live, but consciously choose death. This is why James Potter's death did not create a sacrificial protection. Voldemort was never going to spare him, so his death didn't protect Lily or Harry. Lily, on the other hand, was offered the chance to step aside because Voldemort had promised Snape that he wouldn't kill her if she got out of his way. Her conscious refusal to comply with Voldemort's demand is why the sacrificial protection was endowed on baby Harry. This placed Harry under magical protection so that when Voldemort cast the Killing Curse at Harry in turn, the spell backfired, leaving Harry unharmed save for the lightning-shaped scar on his forehead and Voldemort bodiless. Besides this, Harry was faced with the Killing Curse 2 other times, and it wasn't love that saved him then either. At the end of Goblet of Fire, Harry and Voldemort engage in an epic duel. Voldemort casts his signature Killing Curse and Harry counters it with a disarming charm. Instead of killing him as would normally be the case, Harry's charm collides with Voldemort's, creating what is known as Priori Incantatem. Priori Incantatem is a magical phenomenon that occurs when two wands sharing the same cores are forced to compete in combat. Both wands became linked and the wand holders were forced to compete in a battle of wills. Finally, in the end of Deathly Hallows, Voldemort strikes Harry down with a killing curse. But once again, instead of killing him, he is separated from the Horcrux inside him and returned to the land of the living, basically unscathed. It can be argued that this is because Harry is still protected by the sacrificial protection, but that's not the case in this particular instance. When Harry was hit by the killing curse as a baby, it rebounded and killed Voldemort, necessitating that he create a new body. This didn't happen the second time. When Harry was hit by the killing curse as a baby, it left a visible mark. And this didn't happen the second time either. To destroy a Horcrux, the container must be destroyed. Had Lily's protection been responsible for the survival, he wouldn't have died, hence that portion of Voldemort's soul would also not have died. So Harry must have been killed. But he went to a seemingly heaven-like place and was able to return. At that point in the story, Harry was the master of all three Deathly Hallows. He possessed both the Cloak of Invisibility and the Resurrection Stone, and the wand with which Voldemort cast the curse, the Elder Wand, owed its loyalty to Harry and not Voldemort. In doing so, Harry truly was the master of death. Because Harry chose not to defend himself, the wand was not defeating Harry, so its allegiance didn't change. Had he tried to duel, he would have lost allegiance to the wand when he lost and simply died. Harry wasn't protected by his mother's love so much as the fact that he made a specific choice not to seek power, and that gave him all the power in the world. The true power to bring Harry back came from his unwillingness to fight death himself, the way Lily was unwilling to fight it for his sake 16 years earlier. Lord Voldemort's inability to understand the power of love made him severely underestimate and misunderstand the power of this protection. So, when speaking of the power of love, Dumbledore is speaking both metaphorically and literally. He is talking about the love of a mother which led to the physical sacrifice that forms the basis for this protection. I'd like to end this video with a quote by Dumbledore in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. He says, "Your mother died to save you. If there's one thing Voldemort cannot understand, it is love. He didn't realize that love as powerful as your mother's for you leaves its own mark. Not a scar, no visible sign. To have been loved so deeply, even though the person who loved us is gone, will give us some protection forever."